I have prepared some slides which should at least help me and you guide us a little bit through this session. So first of all, it's a little bit who we are. I'm representing here Spin Sport Innovation, which is a small social impact organization, which I've been co-founding together with my colleague Dirk, nearly 15 years ago now. How we feel ourselves, who we are. We feel that we are sport innovators, strategic development partners. So we really see ourselves working in partnership with all the organizations we are together. We see ourselves as bridge builders, policy translators, and social impact facilitators. This is quite some words. What does it mean? First of all, I have a background which comes from research and education. So I've been working at the German Sport University in Cologne for 4 or 5 years back at the time. And then I've been actually stepping into the world of sport organizations, and I've been working for numerous sport organizations at the European level, where I was supporting organizations with both their organizational development, but also with their sport development aspects, and always with a lot of focus on education in and through sport, and at the same time also on social impact aspects of it. Why we see ourselves as strategic developers is because we like to think long-term, and we like to support our partners to think long-term in order to make the most and the best impact out of it. Why do we call ourselves partners and not consultants? Thanks for the very nice introduction, but ourselves, we don't like this word consultant too much, because we really like to work in partnership with all the stakeholders around the table. So it's always a kind of eye-level collaboration that we are looking for, where we are trying to create win-win situations between the different parties around the table. Bridge builder and policy translator, we work a lot really translating sport policies, whether they come from the international or European level or national levels, and to help really breaking them down towards the local levels where sport is happening and where the sport clubs are acting and making the impact. As you all come from the field, you know that sometimes there is a little bit of a gap. Sometimes these policy papers, they are not so super easy to understand, or even between research and sport club level, sometimes there is a little bit of a gap, and we try to translate and build the bridges between these stakeholders so that everybody can really benefit from it. And last but not least, the social impact facilitator. We really see that sport can be more than only trophies. We like the competitive part of sports. This is something where also I come out myself, but at the same time, we see that sport has even more potential when it comes to creating social impact. So this is a little bit how we see ourselves, a little bit of my background. We are building our work mainly on 2 pillars, as you can see there. So the first pillar is sport development, which means we work with our partners really in developing sport, but also sport organizations, which is relatively classical strategic consulting. Now I come back to the term where we help from board level down to different department levels to improve the structures of sport organizations. And then at the same time, our second pillar is sport for development, where we are using sport as a tool, as an instrument to achieve wider social impact. So that's a little bit from our side. We are based in Germany, as said, yeah, if there's any more questions, I think we can dive into this a little bit deeper later. Who are partners we are working with? As you can see, we work from local, national, regional level towards the international levels. We work a lot with sport organizations. We work a lot with European stakeholders. We work with municipalities. We work with ministries. We work with Olympic committees. I've been working for a long, long time as well in the Paralympic sector. So I even had the pleasure to work with the Paralympic Committee here in Lithuania for some years, where we've been developing some learning exchanges and some development processes in the Baltic region, bridging towards the Scandinavian region. So this is a broad variety of stakeholders that we are working with. And yeah, this is something over the last 20 years. I'm now in the sector where we could gain a lot of insight and a lot of learning, and we try to give this further to the partners we are working with. Now I was asked to share some of the different working examples we've been doing, and is there a question? No. Okay, perfect. So actually, I brought one slide with some of our examples, and I'm trying to talk you a little bit through these different examples. To give you a little bit of an insight how we try to think outside the box here and there, how we try to build partnerships, how we try to exploit the full potential of sports in order to make social impact, but also to do some development structures with it. And maybe a good example is if I'm starting with the project BASE. This was actually a European funded initiative. For your information, a lot of these projects that you can see there, they are funded or co-funded by the European Union, which is a tool, an instrument we are using to kickstart initiatives, to set up learning between different communities across different countries, because we really, really believe in the fact that all the stakeholders inside and outside sport, that they can really learn from each other. So this is always a mutual learning. Actually, after or during these last more than 20 years, I've been working with more than 200 different stakeholders across Europe, and I have to say there hasn't been any stakeholder in any country or region I wasn't able to learn from. So this is always a really good mutual learning, understanding how people are dealing with different circumstances. What is the BASE project about? Actually, maybe it's very small, but you can even see a Lithuanian flag, because this was a initiative we've been doing with also a partner from Kaunas here in Lithuania. So it was with the regional health office of Kaunas, who has been a partner, but we also had a partner from the Netherlands, from North Macedonia, and from Spain. And with these 4 local communities, we've been setting up an approach in order to reactivate older people who have become, especially after the isolation times of the Corona pandemic, who have been a little bit disconnected from social activities in their communities, and who also lost a little bit and more active and healthy lifestyle. So what we've been doing, we've been setting up so-called active neighborhoods, which means we've been determining in the neighborhood some activities. We've been screening, we've been mapping what is missing there, but also what is offered there, why people are not engaging. And we've been, for this, looking for so-called active neighborhood buddies, which means we've been looking for older people who are already very, very active in the local community. We've been training these older people who are already active, and we've been supporting them in order to support their peers who are not so active. And this peer-to-peer mentoring support was really, really a huge success. As you can imagine, if younger people sometimes, if they are trying to approach older people in the local community, there often is this kind of feeling from the older people that the younger people, they do not understand why they are not active. They do not understand why it is so difficult to go out, why it is so difficult to engage, why maybe some of the sports activities are not appropriate to them. But once you are matching active older people with those who are not so active, this was a real success. We did not leave these active neighborhood bodies on their own, but from the local community, whether it was a sport organization, a municipality, or as we had in Kaunas, the local health department, we've been also training professionals in order to become mentors and supporters for the active neighborhood bodies. It means that we not only had the volunteers, which were the older people, but we also had professionals working in the local community who could help these active neighborhood bodies to set up new activities, new healthy lifestyle activities, but also to adapt maybe existing ones and to motivate and to engage the older people. This was a project which was like super, super successful. It has been running over 3 years. Actually, we were able in those 4 communities to engage around 2,500 older people. And we've been initiating more than 5,000 smaller and mid-scale healthy lifestyle activities. So it was a super, super successful approach. And this project actually now, after the funding from the European Union has ended, will be turned into a sustainable product. And we are going to offer this to more communities. We had a very nice presentation actually also in Kaunas during the HEPA Europe conference from the World Health Organization, and there was actually a lot of partners who were interested, and they were like asking us, yes, please bring this into our local communities as well. And we've been hearing this call, so we are going to go further. So this was a first approach. You can see we work a lot with local ecosystem approaches. Here we call them active neighborhoods. And here they are made for a target group of older people. A next project is actually a very similar approach. We've been working again with a local ecosystem approach. However, this was done for younger people. So what I was just explaining to you, it's not one by one the same approach, but at the same time, we've been working here with a project which was also funded by a German agency, and we've been working again with 4 different local communities, and we've been concentrating here on younger people, and we've been concentrating on empowering younger people to commit more in their local community development in order to support that the local community becomes more active and focuses more on healthy lifestyle and healthy living. So we've been running workshops with the youngsters, and they've been empowered to build bridges between the local community stakeholders related to sport, health, and education. And they've been coming up with innovative ideas. How can we activate the local community to engage more with health and sport activities? This was 2 approaches where we've been concentrating rather on active and healthy lifestyle. We do some other projects which are a little bit more in the area of sport for development. When we work in sport for development, which I have said before, it is that we use sport actually as a tool in order to support development goals, which could be also personal skills development goals. And we've been running projects not only in Europe, but also outside Europe. We've been running projects in Palestine, in Egypt, in Indonesia, in different communities. Mostly, we've been also working in the Balkan region there. And what we've been doing is we've been setting up a specific approach how to use sport and play as a tool for skills development. And in this regard, we've been funded mostly by the German Development Agency, who have acknowledged within the scope of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that sport is actually a super helpful and powerful enabler to support development. And in this regard, we've been actually developing a bunch of handbooks. And if you are interested in this field, these handbooks are actually available for free. You can download them, and there is hopefully lots of good idea how to use sport as a tool for skills development, which means how to use sport, for example, in order to trigger communication or collaboration or even employability skills. And this is something which is very, very interesting if you look a little bit outside of the box of, let's say, only doing sports for the sake of sports and winning trophies, which is nothing bad. As said, I've been doing this myself for most of my life. So this is some projects we do there. If there's more questions, we can go into this later. Another very interesting project is actually one we are running at the moment. And this is a project where we are actually helping local communities to design local sport for development networks, which means we are building at the moment a course which introduces the approach of sport for development networks and which then empowers people from the local community, mostly from sport authorities, in order to understand what is sport for development, why these local networks are so helpful, and how to build them. In this regard, local sport for development networks is actually supporting sport clubs working together with schools, working together with social work organization and so on. So all the different stakeholders who get in contact with the youngsters, and to bridge between them so that the youngsters, they can make the most out of the education and the learning. What's next? Another project that we do, actually it's also running at the moment, is focusing a little bit more on the individual development of sport professionals and young sport professionals. What we've been realizing is that you can have a lot of tools and toolkits and handbooks, and even you can make a course, but then many young professionals, and this is not young at age, but professionals who are starting with this kind of topic, that they have sometimes difficulties after they've been doing a course or after they've been reading a handbook in order to implement it on their own. So we've been initiating the Boost mentoring program, which is matching experienced sport for development and sport for social impact experts together with younger professionals and mid-level professionals who really want to boost social impact in and through sport. These younger professionals, they've been applying to our program with a development goal. For example, we also have somebody here from Lithuania participating, and she is actually having a wonderful development project. She wants to further develop her basketball foundation, and she wants to make more social impact with her basketball foundation. And she has been matched, for example, with one of our experts from the Adidas Foundation. And together they are now working on how can they improve the structures and the programs of the Basketball Foundation here in Lithuania in order to have more social impact. It's a one-year program with a 6 months mentoring period, which means that the mentor and the mentee, that they are regularly in contact, mostly every 2 weeks. And then the mentee receives support. And at the end of the program, the mentee will hopefully have a newly or improved initiative which they can implement then at the local or regional or national level. Quite nice program. If you're interested in something like this, we also want to run this next year. So we are already preparing for next year. We have the funding will end this year. So it's a pilot, and then we are going to implement it hopefully in a regular way. In the same scope, which is about skills development through sport, we have just launched a micro-credential. So this may be interesting for people also who are working at universities. So we have just, in partnership with a University of Applied Sciences in Austria, we have launched a micro-credential on sport-based skills development or life skills development. which is a program which we also would like to roll out not only in Austria, but in different countries where people who work at sport clubs, but also physical education teachers or social workers receive a deep dive in what is sport for development and how to use it, and you connect it with learning at the university. So it's a one ECTS program. One of our latest programs now is, and this is a little bit topic specific, I don't know how you much know about bees, and now you can see how mentoring programs can also inspire the mentor. I've been working the last 2 years in a mentoring program in Africa for African sport change makers. And I've been the mentor, but I learned a lot from my mentee. And my mentee, he is actually a beekeeper. So he's an African beekeeper in Tanzania, and he has taught me a lot about bees. And this inspired my colleagues and myself to come up with a program which connects the education about why bees are so important for our environment. And we were bridging this with our Sport for Development programs, which means we are at the moment offering, and this you can see a little bit, it's probably very small. This is actually my hometown in Bavaria, in Coburg. What we are setting up there now is a local partnership where we bring the program into schools, and at schools the children, they can learn about bees, about the environment, why bees are so important, but we bridge it with sports activities, with sport for development activities, which means we are using the natural interest of children to move, and then we bridge it with the learning about bees and the necessity to take care of the environment. So this is a very specific program where we use sport then for education about the environment. I have heard that there's also some of you here who are more maybe in the field of health, healthy lifestyle, healthy living. So this is why I was putting also these two programs. We are co-founders actually of a European Innovation Alliance on healthy living, which is running. We are running this since 3 years as an innovation alliance, but more than 10 years we have built this up, where we actually also try to empower local communities to set up local ecosystems that make healthy living or improve healthy living. And at the same time, I'm also involved in another organization where we are offering facilitator and mentoring programs related to healthy lifestyle. But maybe this is something, if some of you is interested, I can share a little bit later on. And now I come to one smaller deep dive, because I would like to give all of you the opportunity to also ask some questions. But this is a platform we have developed. So it is a short RISE deep dive. What we've been noticing is that many sport clubs at the local level, that they are offering a lot of sport for good and sport for social impact activities, sometimes intrinsically. As you know, if you're part of a sport club, and I grew up in a sport club, so most of my life I've been doing sports, and certainly this was not only in order to become a professional athlete, but there was a lot of it around it. There was a lot of learning as regards how to communicate, how to work in teams, and a lot of these social impact aspects. But what we've been learning is that many of the sport clubs, they do this, but often they are not really aware of it, and that they are very often also not really aware how to use this in their communication as regards finding new members, or even finding sponsors as regards corporate social responsibility, or also using it to get funding from national agencies. So we've been developing a platform, and this platform, the so-called RISE platform, has two development aspects. So you have a learning program, and this learning program is based on two pillars. So the first pillar is how to be good, and the second is how to do good. And once you've been doing this learning program, you will end up with a self-assessment, and you can receive a certificate afterwards. And with this certificate, you can then communicate to both your members, but also to your donors or to sponsors, that you have certain standards and that you have awareness about these kind of topics. And here you can see a little bit how it works. So in the Be Good part, at the moment, we have some learning aspects related to how to govern your organization well, how to protect your people, but also protecting the environment. This is a growing platform. So this comes from the principle that we say, okay, if you're a sport club or a sport organization, and if you want to do good, you need to keep certain principles to be good. This has something to do, for example, protecting your people with safeguarding aspects. I have two boys. If I send them to the sports club, I like to send them to a sports club where I know that they are following basic rules as regards safeguarding, that the coaches who are working there, that they may have certain education, that they know how to treat youngsters well, and how to educate them well. So this is an example. And then the second part is about how to do good, because as you know, throwing a ball into a sports hall doesn't mean that the kids who are playing then football, that they necessarily become a good team, or that equality aspects or inclusion aspects, that they grow by themselves, but it needs to have a targeted approach. And in the do good part, we explain why such an impact orientation is good and necessary for sport clubs, and then we walk all the way down how to develop such programs, how to really set them up in a strategic way, until you monitor and you evaluate them to become better. It's a video-based course, so you can see here this impact orientation part. You can do videos, and then you have a lot of learning and development materials, which you can see this step 1, 2, and 3. So it helps you actually, if you want to learn how to do this, to really go through these different steps. And at the very end, as said, there is a self-evaluation. You can rate yourself, and it helps you to reflect as a sport club, okay, where we are. Do we really have like monitoring evaluation? Do we have this in place already, or do we need a little bit more of development? And yeah, we have more than 1,000 clubs now registered. Not all of them have already achieved the certificate. It's a long-term process, but it helps a lot, and we have received a lot of positive feedback from clubs sending messages to us. Oh, this has helped us to restructure. This has helped us to find new sponsors. This has helped us to position ourselves better with our national agency. So I think it is a nice tool, and it's for free.
It's for free. It's open for everyone.
It's open for everyone. It's for free. This is something you can use. It's in English at the moment, but we are working on different language versions. So we are discussing at the moment with different partners to offer it in different languages. So who knows? Maybe someday in Lithuanian.
Okay.
So this was it from my side. I know I was talking a lot. The idea was to give you a broad overview, and now maybe you have some questions, something I can explain to you, something you want to know. And I leave this slide here open.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for sharing your experiences and your projects, your programs, the things you do with your organization. I think it's very important, and it's a good example and for many of us, and sort of to get inspired from what you do in developing projects. For example, anyone can initiate something like that if they have a initiator and opportunity to apply for funds, etc. And so many of those projects you've presented, you are a part of it, or so where do you get these ideas from? What do other organizations approach you and they say, let's do this or that project together, or you come up with the idea and then you search for any partners? How does that work in this operational level?
I can talk a lot, as you could now notice, but I'm also a good listener. So I think most of these ideas, they really come from listening what people ask for. So many people, they approach us and they say, okay, we have difficulties in this field. We would need support with these kind of aspects. And then we're trying to sit down together with these people and we try to think a little bit outside of the box. So, okay, what can we do different in order to help you overcome your challenges? Or, and this is like the bottom-up approach, or sometimes it's top-down. As you know, sometimes there is like new policies initiated or proposed. There is new research coming out. And then we help, as we said, we are bridge builders. We help to bridge this to the local needs. How can we find a new framework, a new process in order to implement what is requested from a government, for example?
I see. Okay. So, but also we have I've got a few questions from the audience that were sent previously. Maybe Albert, you will.
Yeah. Also, everybody who wants to ask some questions, you can raise your hand or put them in the chat room. We'll read them or translate them if it's more comfortable for you in Lithuanian. But we had some questions before the meeting, and we're happy that you touched many points of those things. But firstly, people are asking, how can more participants be attracted into physical activity programs and projects, focusing especially on teenagers? How to reach them, how to touch them, and how to engage them more? Do you have any maybe experiences from your previous projects where you used to do that?
Yeah, that is a super good question. I think if I would have the exact answer, I would be very happy. What we have learned is that these peer-to-peer approaches, that they are really, really helpful. What I explained to you with the target group of the older people, this is also what we do with the younger people. As soon as you have somebody who is already active, who is already engaged, if you help these people to step up as mentors, as supporters, helping their peers to get engaged, this is something we learned that this is super helpful from our point of view. The second aspect we've been learning is, and I don't know how different Lithuania is there to Germany, but we learned that elite sport and competitive sport structures, that they are not so attractive anymore to youngsters in Germany, but that it doesn't mean that they don't want to do this at all, but they need a little bit of a different angle towards it, which means there is more community aspects, there is more fun aspects that we are offering, and then we slowly bridge then also into, for example, more competitive sports. So this is two angles we have tried, and they were relatively successful.
Thank you. And also people are wondering how can neighborhoods or small communities be involved in active leisure activities? You mentioned your project base. Maybe you have some insights or good examples what worked best to involve those small communities or neighborhoods into active leisure activities.
A very good question. Again, I mean, this is really an approach we work now since 10 years, which actually we've been bringing the local stakeholders together, which means we are setting up informal structures at the local level where we are supporting the different kind of stakeholders, whether it is the sport clubs, it is the municipality, it is the schools, it is some social work organizations, but actually any citizen can just participate. We bring them around the table and we are discussing what are the assets, what is already there, and what is missing, and how can we actually help each other. What we've been learning is very often sport clubs, and this is what we know from Germany, they've been defending their spaces quite a lot. We want our members, so we are protecting maybe this part, we are looking for the same funding, and they've been rather protective than opening up. What we try to convince the local stakeholders is that if you open up, if you collaborate more, if you are trying to build bridges and find synergies, that this helps the local community much more, and also the single organizations much more than if you are this kind of defensive and then if you're fighting against each other. And this approach needs sometimes maybe giving up a little bit of space, and maybe in the short-term aspect, it feels you are maybe, or some of the stakeholders may lose a little bit of influence and power, but in the mid to long-term approach, we have learned that this actually is safeguarding the whole structures and is helping a lot and is creating win-win situations.
And if you could share maybe your best or the ones that work best for you, innovative methods for promoting physical activity, using those innovative tools, ideas.
Well, this is a very good question. I'm not sure if there's this one innovative approach. I think this is what we are trying to share with everybody, is that it is actually very, very specific to the local circumstances and to the stakeholders involved. Rather than thinking, okay, this works well in Coburg, in my community, so it will also work well in Vilnius. This may not work. But what we are really looking is, we're looking at the local needs, at the local assets. We are trying to bridge the stakeholders and then develop together what works well for the local people in the local context. So maybe if I can say this, contextualizing, looking at the local needs and assets, this for me is the winning factor. You can be inspired. You can be inspired what I have been showing you here, but you will also see, if you dig into the different projects we've been doing, like the base project I was telling in the very beginning, you will see in all the 4 communities, we've been actually doing the same approach, but all the activities, they were very different. In Malaga, for example, where is most of the year sunshine, people are very much outdoors. We had like most of the activities outdoors. They were concentrating a lot, for example, on activating older men, because we realized there that there is more women active than men. Whilst we had, for example, in the Netherlands, much more rain, but much more a walking culture, for example. They've been initiating then active nature walks, things that were not very attractive to the guys in Malaga because they said it's too hot. And in North Macedonia, we had activities which were much more into cooking, into social aspects, rather than it was sport. So it is really about contextualizing. This is maybe what I would say is the most important.
And also maybe a few good practice examples of integrating people with disabilities into sports activities.
Very, very nice. I've been working for more than 15 years in sports for people with disability. So this is a topic I'm really, really close. But at the same time, we know that it's easier said as done. What we try to do is we try to do 2 approaches. So one approach is to make most of the activities that we are offering, to make them inclusive, so that regardless the abilities of any person, that they can be done together. This takes a little bit of planning, for sure, and sometimes a little bit of adaptation. But then at the same time, we also acknowledge that some persons with disabilities, they would like to do sports, their activities, rather in their own communities, for example, where there is like a safe space. So what do we do? Again, it's a lot about awareness raising. It's a lot about making sure that accessibility is provided, and especially that accessibility is provided both from a physical, but also from a kind of welcoming perspective, so that everybody who is involved really knows how to treat people with a disability, how to welcome them accordingly, that public transport or transport is provided in a good way. And then certainly this would be probably a lecture or a workshop on its own. It again is very, very dependent on the local circumstances. Who are the persons we are talking about? What are the environmental circumstances in the local community? And then I think there isn't like one good or best practice, but it is really contextualized again.
We have last question. If there is any in Germany that you could share, what measures or tools are being implemented at the national level to improve physical activity among school children, and how are those outcomes measured later on?
A very good question. Do you allow me to move to Austria?
Of course.
So first of all, as you know, Germany and school sports, there are 16 different systems, and this is why it makes it very, very difficult, because we education and physical education is governed at not the national level, the federal level, but it is at the Länder level. But I have a very good example from Austria. Because we are actually evaluating since more than 10 years a wonderful program which is initiated by the Ministry of Sport in Austria, and it started. The name was Move Children Healthy, and it was a cooperation program between schools and sport clubs. So what has been done there is schools were supported to bridge activities that were provided by sport club coaches within the school system, which helped that the sport there was not only provided by physical education teachers, but they were supported by sport coaches and specifically trained staff, and they've been implementing additional physical education lessons. And this was a very, very successful program, which has now since 3 years evolved into the so-called daily physical activity hour. Which means it became a national program where each day a physical activity hour is provided in all of the schools. This sport club and physical education school cooperation for me is one of the best examples that we have in Europe in order to raise the hours in school sport to support the children. If you want, I can provide you some data there. We do the evaluation there since more than 10 years, and there is hundreds of thousands of contact points children could get through the program, and it's a very nice initiative, which could show how a sport ministry could bridge into the physical education system. Thank you. Thank you.
But in that specific example in Austria, this how is there any resources like financial needed in this kind of program? Does it goes from government, the funding of that kind of program?
Yes, actually it is funded by the Ministry of Sport, and the Ministry of Sport is actually paying these trainers so that they are able to offer this additional sport hours. Yeah, so it was a really political decision making because there was not enough physical education hours, and this is why then the sport ministry was bridging, and they are providing the funds. Quite some millions, of course. Yes.
Yeah. That's good. So maybe,
we don't have any questions at the moment.
Getting to the end. So maybe the last questions from my side. You talked about the sport development idea, sport for development. So how do you see the role of sport and physical activity? How does that role evolves perhaps in addressing broader societal questions challenges such as aging populations, mental health, and social inclusion?
I think it plays a really crucial role, as you could see with the United Nations Agenda 2030, with the Sustainable Development Goals. Sport, as said, was really mentioned as one of the key enablers to support this. There is, which you can also, if you go to the RISE platform, you can see that there is different impact fields. We have identified like 5 main impact fields where sport can really play a role. And this can start at a lower level, that you use sport as a kind of attractor to bring people together, but then also to use sport and play as a really targeted instrument to bring this together. We can really see, and this is where I can see in Germany, where we are shifting, that we are shifting more and more from, on the one hand, the competitive aspects of sport, which are valuable themselves, which are also funded by our ministries, but at the same time acknowledging that sport clubs play a crucial role. What we can now see, democratic processes, for example, how sport is positioning itself, how to educate youngsters, how to develop their skills beyond motoric skills. I think that this is actually, has always been part of sports, but that this is, I think, more and more important.
Of course. Thank you. No questions from the audience. So thank you very much, Matthias. Will you have a word or?
Tai matyt. Okay. Labadiena visiems, kurie dar esate čia su mumis. Mes iš tikrųjų baigėme mūsų susitikimą, antrąjį susitikimą, tarptautinį susitikimą per pastarąsias 2 savaitės, ir tikiuosi, kad jūs tikrai ir pamatėte, ir sužinojote, ir išgirdote, ir, matyt, įsivertinti, kiek ir ko padarome šiandien ir kokių galimybių dar mes turime tikrai neišnaudotų ateityje, kaip kad būkite kūrybingi, inovatyvūs, ir lauksime iš jūsų ir paraiškų, ir projektų, žodžiu, su įvairiom idėjom, kurias jūs ir šiandien siekiate mums pristatyti. Tai ačiū labai ir iki malonaus.